first of all, you guys already know how to graph something in your calculator, right? We go to y equals, we type in the equation, and then we hit graph, and it's going to pull up the graph. That's how we'll start all these problems. We need to see the picture first, so we'll graph it. Once you have your graph pulled up, if they ask you to find the vertex, remember, our vertex is either this point if it looks like this, or this point if it looks like that, right? Okay, and it says we're going to follow these steps in order to do that. So, if we are looking for a maximum, which one of these pictures am I talking about? Right, this one's a maximum. If I'm looking for a minimum, that's this one over here, right? So there is a place where we're going to have to decide if we're looking for a maximum or a minimum, so we need to know based on our picture what we have, okay? Then in order to find the x-intercepts, remember x-intercepts can be called several different things, right? So our x-intercepts, or we can also call those solutions, or we can also call them roots. And then the last thing we can call those are zeros. Okay? And if we're looking for those, this is the list of steps on how to do that. Okay? So, now that we have broken down what it is each one of these things finds for us, let's look at some examples where we find information in our calculator. Okay, so no matter what I'm looking for, the first thing I have to do is graph it, right? So, for number 1, this is the equation that I'm going to type into y equals. So I need everybody to grab their calculator. And we're all going to go to y equals. And in y equals, we are going to type in that first equation. So we have x squared plus 4x minus 5. Okay, so everybody should have this equation typed in their y1. Okay, and then we hit graph so we can see a picture of it. Okay, so this is what we see, right? The first thing that they ask us for is for the vertex. Looking at my picture, is my vertex a maximum or a minimum? Minimum. Okay, so we're going to keep that in mind. All right, so when we look back up at the 3 boxes from above, the second box is where it has the steps for how to find the vertex, right? Everybody see that box? Okay, what does step 1 in that box say to press? Second trace. So second is this blue button right here, so you're going to hit that button first. Okay, and then trace is the 4th button in the very top row up here, so you're going to hit that next, and it brings up a list. Okay, this is where we decide if we're looking for a maximum or a minimum. You guys said ours was a minimum, right? So that would be which number here? 3. So I hit number 3. Okay, then step number 3 from the list up above. What does step number 3 say? When asked left bound, use the left arrow, right? It says to move the cursor to the left of the vertex. Okay, so you see the thing flashing on your screen? You're going to move it to the left of your vertex. So my vertex is down here at the bottom. I just need to be somewhere to the left of it. So anywhere over here, just a little bit past the vertex to the left. Okay? So you can see mine's flashing over here now, and the vertex is down here. So it's to the left of it, right? And it says after you've done that, then you're going to press what? Enter. Okay? Then what does number 4 say? Right. Very good. So it's asking now for us to move to the right side. So now I'm going to move that flashing cursor over here somewhere on the right side of my vertex. Okay, so now it's flashing over here. And once we've done that, again, it says we press enter. Okay? And then step number 5, what does it say? Right, so, and our calculator says guess now, so we're going to press enter one more time. Okay, and it should tell us where our, mine just froze. Give it a second, see if it goes. When we press enter, it should tell us that our coordinate is where. So it's a coordinate point, so it should give us an X and a Y. What does that say on our screen?
About 1.99.
Okay.
And then for your
-2, negative, right. 1.99999 is going to round to 2, right? And 9. Okay, good. All right, so for my vertex, we're rounding to the nearest numbers. We got -2 and -9. And like you guys said, that was a minimum. Good. All right, the next thing it asks us for is the axis of symmetry. Remember, that's where I fold it in half, right? So if I'm folding it in half, where can I fold it in half at? The middle, right down the middle. Where is the number that's right down the middle? So where is it? -2. So remember, this is x equals -2. So your axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever you got for your x over here. All right? Okay. Then it's going to ask for our x-intercept. So we have another box right up above here that gave us step-by-step instructions on how to find that too, right? Okay, let's see if my calculator unfroze. It did not. Okay, hold on a second. Now we're looking for our zeros. And if we look up above, we have a whole box of instructions on how we can do that too. All right? So, again, I'm going into my y equals, and we've already graphed it, right? So I'm looking at the graph. To find the x-intercepts, what is step number 1 in that box? Press second trace 2. Okay, so second trace, this time it says choose number 2, which is 0. All right. And again, it does the whole left bound and right bound thing. But how many zeros or x-intercepts does this picture have? 2. So I'm going to have to do it twice for both points. So let's first do it for the one on the left. Okay? It says that we want the left bound, so I'm going to have to move that flashing cursor all the way to the left so that I go past this 0. So I'm a little bit above it. Everybody see that? So move your cursor just a little bit above that 0 on the left. So you have to move it to the left to make it go over there. All right? And then it says we press what? Enter. And now it says right bound, right? So now I'm going to go to just a little bit to the right, just past that 0. So I'm just underneath it now. So see it's flashing right underneath there. Okay? And then I press what again? Enter. And now it says guess. What do I press again? Enter. All right, and where does it say that coordinate point is? Okay, so we've got our solution here for the first one at -5, 0. Okay, but like you guys said, there's 2 of them, right? So I'm going to go into my graph. Oops, I forgot to. X squared minus 4x. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that same process. Try again. Yes, for the other one. So, got my x squared plus 4x minus 5. Okay, let me get my graph back up. All right, now we repeat that same process. So, it said to press second trace, and then which number? 2. Good. And this time we're doing it for this point. So, to be to the left of that point, would I be below it or above it? To be to the left of this point right here. Am I above it or below it? Below it. Okay, so I don't really need to move. It's already in a good spot. So I press enter. But to be to the right of it, I'm going to have to be above. So I'm going to move to the right so that I'm above it. And what do I hit again? And then when it says guess, what do I hit again? So where does it say that one is?
1, 0.
1, 0. Okay. All right. So my other point is at 1, 0. Okay. All right. Then it asks for a y-intercept. What's a y-intercept? Where it crosses the y-axis. So if it's on the y-axis, has it gone left or right any? No. So that means the x value is 0 because we haven't moved left or right any. So in order to find it, I just need to pull up the table. So in order to pull up the table, you press second graph. And it's going to pull up this table for us. All right, so like you guys said, this would mean that x is 0. So when x is 0, what's y? Okay, so that is my y-intercept. The coordinate point, 0, -5. All right. Okay, the next one says to find f of 2. So what letter is normally in the parenthesis there? X, right. So they replaced x with 2, and they're asking, what do you get? So again, I'm just going to go to my table. They said x was what? 2. So I find 2 in my table, and what do we get? 7. So that's what I put here. Okay, and then the last thing they want is the range. So is range my x's or my y's? My y's. Okay, so we're talking about going up and down. Is this thing ever going to stop going up? No, but we said that it did stop at a lowest point, right? What was the y value at the lowest point? -9, right? This is the y value at our minimum. So, do things get bigger or smaller as we go up? Bigger, so I would say y is very good, that -9. Okay? All right, so for both of these, this one and this one, we just look at the table to find our answers. But everything else we've got set. All right? Okay, let's do another one. So number 2, what am I going to do with my equation? Y equals. Okay, so I'm going to go in my calculator, go to y equals, clear out your old equation, and put in the new. So we've got -2x squared plus x plus 7. And then we graph it, all right? Okay, so what does it ask for first? Vertex. Okay, so I look in my box that has steps for the vertex. What's the first step? Okay, and then I'm going to have to pick if it's a maximum or a minimum. Looking at this picture, yes, good, we have a maximum. So I'm going to press second trace, what number? 4, good. All right, now it says that we want to be on the left of that point. So my vertex is that point up high at the top, so anywhere over on the left side is good. Okay, and then I press what? Enter, good. And then it says to move to the right. So I'm going to arrow over to the right so that my cursor is somewhere over there. And what do I press? And then it says guess, and what do we press? Enter again. Okay. And 7 point something, right? Okay. So if we're rounding 1 decimal place, you could round this up to 0.3, right? And this one would round to 7.1. They didn't say how many decimal places to go, so that really doesn't matter. That's your choice. But we'll just go 1 decimal place for now. All right, and like you guys said, that one was a maximum. All right, so axis of symmetry. We said the axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever I had in my vertex. So what am I going to set my x equal to? Good, 0.3. X equals the x value that you just found, okay? All right, then it wants the roots. Well, roots mean the same thing as zeros or x-intercepts, good. All right, so I go back to my graph. What's the first step in the box for x-intercepts? Yep, second trace 2. All right, so we're going to do this one over here on the left first. To be to the left of it, should I be above it or below it? Below, right? If I'm going to move to the left of it, I have to be below it. Okay, and then when it says to go to the right, I'm going to have to be a little bit above. So where is that one? Good. Okay, so we'll start with that one. So we got negative 1.60. All right, and then we got to repeat that process again to find the other one, right? So second trace 2, second trace 2. And then to be to the left of the other 0, am I going to be above it or below it? Above it. Okay, and then to be to the right of it, I'm going to have to go below it. And where is that one approximately?
2.1.
Yeah, good. So we got about 2.1. All right. Okay, and how do we find the y-intercept? Like on the y-axis, so I just look in my table, right? What's x going to have to be if it's a y-intercept? 0. All right, so I pull up my table, second table. When x is 0, what's y? 7. So it's the coordinate point 0, 7. All right, then they want h of negative 5. So when x is negative 5, right, they replace the x. What do we get when x is negative 5 from our table? When x is negative 5, what does our table say? Negative 48. All right. All right, and then the last thing they ask for is domain. Domain is my x's, right? Is this graph ever going to stop going to the left or right? So what do I put? All real numbers. Good. Okay. Flip it over on the back. Now we're going to look at a couple questions where they're asking us just to find one thing, not all the things. So number 3 says to find the solutions. What does solutions mean? The same as? X-intercepts. Good. All right, so I'm looking for x-intercepts. They say find it by hand and in our calculator. All right, so if I was going to find it by hand, I could maybe find it by factoring. But if I'm going to factor or graph it, everything has to be on one side of the equation. So how could we fix this equation? Add 10. Okay, so now I'm going to have x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0, right? Okay, does this have a GCF? No, no GCF. Okay, then what is my sum and product? Good. All right, guys, so what multiplies to give us 10 and adds to give us 7? 5 and 2. All right, so I'm going to have x plus 5 and x plus 2. Right. When we take them out and set them equal to 0 and solve, it's going to flip those two numbers. Very good. So we end up with x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 2. Good. All right, so we've solved by hand. If I was going to do it in the calculator, the first thing we do is put it in y1, right? So in y1, I would type in this equation. My x squared plus 7x plus 10. I'm going to come over here and type that in. X squared plus 7x plus 10. All right, and if I'm looking for an x-intercept, that's the second box of instructions, right? So we press second trace what? The x-intercepts, yes, the zeros, good. All right, so For the one furthest to the left, I'm going to have to be a little bit above it in order to find it, right? Okay. I go a little above it and press enter. Then to go to the right, I got to go just a little bit below it and press enter. And where does it say that one is? -5, which is the same thing we found solving by hand, right? Alright, so we got x equals -5, or the coordinate point, -5, 0, right? Alright, and then we do the same thing for the others. Alright, we do a left and right bound, and where does it say that other one is? -2. Alright. Okay. This next one says, what is a 0? Okay, what does 0 mean the same thing as? X-intercept. Alright, so we've got the equation here. Alright, they didn't say how we had to find it, so we're just going to go ahead and graph it. So I'm going to type that equation exactly as they've written it in my y equals. So that equation is a fraction, so we do alpha y equals, I've got -5 over 3 with an x there, okay, and then plus 15, and then we graph it. All right, so this one's a straight line, right, not a U shape, okay, but we're still looking for an x-intercept, so still the same process. Right? We're looking for this one right there. So we're only going to have one answer this time. All right, so second trace. Which one am I going to pick? 2. Good. All right, so to be to the right of it, then I just need to be a little bit above it. There it is. Okay. Sorry, to be to the left of it, I need to be a little bit above it. And then to be to the right of it, we want to be just a little bit below it. No, not in the middle of the lesson. No. And where does it say that it is? So that would be answer choice C. All right, number 5. Which statement about the quadratic equation below is true? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to need to do is graph it. So I'm going to type it in my calculator so we can see at least what it's supposed to look like. So in y1, we've got -4.5 x squared plus 72. All right, so it is a parabola, right? It is that U-shaped figure, and on our graph it looks something like this, right? It went up really high, so we can't really see the top of it, but it looks something like that, right? Okay, so the first answer choice says this has one solution. What's a solution again? An x-intercept. Well, how many times does this touch the x-axis? Twice, so it can't be that one, right? All right, this equation doesn't have any solutions. Is that true? No, you guys just told me there were 2, right? Then D says that there's infinitely many solutions. No, you guys told me there were how many? 2. So without even finding what they actually are, we were already able to eliminate all the other answer choices, right? This one says that we have them at 4 and -4, right? And we can check them in our calculator just like we did before if we want to. All right, last one. Number 6, which statement about the function is false? Okay, so now I need to go type that equation in. So I go to y equals, and I'm going to put in parentheses, x minus 3, close the parenthesis, put a square on the outside. All right, so we graph it. And again, we've got some parabola, right? So this time, looks something like this. Okay, So we're looking for the one that's false, right? Well, we can see on our calculator that it only touches the graph one time, right there, right? So that's a solution. Okay, this one says it has one root at 3. Does it have one root at 3 based on our picture? So this is true, right? So that can't be it. This says a minimum vertex. Is that a minimum? Yeah. So that one's true too, so it's not that. This graph doesn't have any solutions. Is that true or false? False, right? It has one. Okay? And then the last one says the range is all real numbers greater than or equal to 0. Well, that's true, right? It starts at 0 and goes up. So that one's true. So it has to be C. All right?